The day began quietly on Virelia. The twin suns were rising over the crystal fields and soft winds moved through the tall silver grass. Leora stood on the balcony of her study tower, watching the light spread across the horizon. The air smelled of calm, the kind that had lasted for generations. Her people had lived in peace so long that war had become only a story in their history books. But deep inside her heart, something still whispered that peace should never make one blind. She remembered the look in Elias's eyes when he spoke of conflict, how calm he had been, not proud or eager, but careful and ready. That morning, the whisper in her heart became real. The alarm-a-low sound rolled across the city, not loud but strong enough to make everyone stop. A deep tone echoed through the sky like a heartbeat. Leora turned her head sharply. The towers of the capital shimmered, their lights changing color. Then came the voice from the central beacon. Attention, citizens of Virelia. Unidentified ships detected at outer orbit. Remain calm. Defensive systems are activating. Leora froze. That had not happened in hundreds of years. She ran to the nearest comm station and opened a link to the human ship orbiting above. The screen blinked for a moment before Commander Elias appeared. His dark uniform reflected the soft blue light of the ship's control room. Behind him, humans moved with silent focus. Commander, Leora said, trying to steady her breath. Our sensors are detecting unknown ships. Is this a mistake? Elias glanced to the side, checking the readings. No mistake. We're tracking them too. The formation is tactical. About 12 small cruisers, one large carrier behind them. Are they hostile? They haven't responded to our signals, but their engines are running hot. That's not a friendly sign. Leora's heart tightened. We're not prepared for this. Our systems, our people, they're not used to conflict. Elias nodded. Then we'll help you prepare. He turned to his officers. Activate perimeter shields and link to Virelian command. Coordinate sensor data. We'll handle strategy. Even in that tense moment, Leora noticed how calm the humans were. They didn't shout. They didn't panic. Every movement was precise. Every order was clear. Watching them, she began to understand what kind of strength had carried humanity through its long history. Preparing for battle. The human ship, Sol's memory, adjusted its orbit, taking position directly above the capital. From its hull, faint blue light spread outward, forming a defense field to connect with Virelia's weak planetary shields. Leora followed Elias through the main control deck. The large glass screens showed the unknown ships moving closer. They looked like shadows sliding through space, sharp, dark, and silent. Those are not traitors, Elias said quietly. Their flight path is aggressive. Leora swallowed. Who would attack us? We have nothing to offer but peace. Peace can look like weakness to those who seek advantage, Elias replied. He pointed at the map. They'll likely target your power relays first. We'll create a false signal to mislead them. When they take the bait, we'll redirect defense energy to shield your cities. Leora listened carefully, trying to understand. The human strategy was not violent, it was intelligent. They aimed to protect, not destroy. Minutes later, the first wave of enemy ships entered orbit. Bright flashes lit the sky. The Virelians watching from the surface gasped as beams of light cut through the upper atmosphere. But the shields held. The air shimmered with blue and gold energy, bending the attack away. Leora gripped the railing beside her. They're fighting us. They're testing your defenses, Elias said. We'll show them they've chosen the wrong target. The human way, Elias turned to his crew. Deploy counter-signal drones. Bring up formation pattern Epsilon. Leora watched as small metallic spheres launched from the ship, spreading out in perfect geometric lines. The enemy sensors picked them up instantly and turned to attack what they believed was a weak point. They're taking the bait, said one officer. Elias gave a slight nod. Redirect main power. Strengthen the real barrier. Let them waste their energy. Moments later, several enemy ships crashed into their own confusion, blinded by false data, firing at empty space. Their attacks scattered harmlessly into the void. Leora couldn't hide her amazement. You fooled them, without harming anyone. Elias smiled faintly. That's how humans learn to survive. The smartest victory is the one that ends before it begins. The Virelians on the ground began to cheer as they realized the enemy's first strike had failed. Hope spread across the planet. For the first time, they saw humanity's skill not as danger, but as protection, but the attackers didn't stop. A second wave broke formation and headed straight for the eastern continent, where the main power relay was located. If destroyed, the shield would collapse, leaving the cities open. Elias turned to Leora. We'll need to stop them from the surface. I'll need your help. Mine? You know the terrain better than anyone. We'll need your guidance. She hesitated for a moment, fear flickering in her eyes, then nodded. I'll go. The descent, the small shuttle broke through the atmosphere, its hull glowing from re-entry heat. Through the window, Leora could see the blue seas and green valleys of her world. It felt strange to be heading into danger on her own peaceful planet. Elias sat beside her, checking the readings. The raiders will reach the relay in 10 minutes. We can't fight them, Leora said softly. We don't even have weapons here. We don't need to fight, Elias replied. We just need to outthink them. They landed on a wide plateau near the relay station. Engineers were already working frantically, trying to keep the system running. The sky above shimmered as the outer shield flickered from the enemy fire. Leora ran to the main console, connecting to the defense grid. Power levels are dropping fast. Elias looked at the horizon. We'll use the drones again. If we redirect power through the relay's outer rings, we can create a burst of light strong enough to blind their scanners. But that could overheat the system, only if we lose control. Trust me, Leora, we can do this. She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. I trust you. The battle. The enemy ships appeared overhead, cutting through the clouds like dark knives. They fired beams toward the ground, striking near the relay. The earth trembled. Elias shouted into his comlink, Activate Drone Swarm Delta. From the shuttle, hundreds of small silver drones rose into the sky. They formed lines of light, creating a glowing web above the plateau. The beams from the raiders struck the web and scattered harmlessly. Leora worked quickly, rerouting the power systems. Her hands shook as she typed commands into the panel. Energy building. Overload approaching. Hold it steady, Elias called. The enemy ship circled closer. Their lead vessel opened its main cannon, preparing to fire at the core of the relay. Now, Leora. She pressed the final command. The relay exploded in a wave of brilliant light. It wasn't destructive, it was dazzling, pure energy spreading outward like a sunrise. The enemy ships, blinded by the burst, lost control. Their targeting system shut down. Several veered off course and vanished into the clouds. Moments later, silence returned. Leora stepped out of the console room, her heart pounding. They're gone. Elias exhaled slowly. Yes, they won't come back soon. She turned toward him, eyes wide with relief. You saved us. He shook his head. We saved you. Peace is something we protect together. After the storm, when the human ship confirmed the last of the raiders had retreated, Virelia erupted in celebration. The skies were calm again, the shield stable. The High Diplomat sent a message to the humans filled with gratitude. Elias simply replied, You owe us no debt. You stood your ground. That is enough. Leora stood beside him as he watched the stars through the ship's observation window. The light of Virelia glowed below, soft and beautiful. You were right, she said quietly. Peace cannot survive if no one guards it. Elias looked thoughtful. Humans learned that lesson long ago. We remember war not to repeat it, but to understand how to prevent it. Leora smiled faintly. I used to think your kind carried violence inside, but now I see you carry discipline, not destruction. Elias turned to her. Both come from the same place, the will to protect what matters. The difference is in how we choose to use it. Outside the window, the stars began to shine brighter as the ship adjusted its orbit. Leora felt something deep within her shift, a new respect, a new understanding. The stories about humans had been wrong. They hadn't forgotten war. They had learned from it. They had turned its lessons into tools for peace. That night, when she looked down at her world, she no longer saw just Virelia. She saw a part of something greater, two species, once strangers, now allies. For the first time in her life, Leora understood what true strength meant. It was not in power or weapons. It was in the courage to protect without hate, and the wisdom to remember without fear. The days after the battle felt strange on Virelia. The skies were calm again, the twin suns rising as beautifully as before, but something deep in the people's hearts had changed. For generations they had believed peace would last forever, untouched and eternal. But now they knew peace was not a gift. It was something that needed care, courage, and guardians. Leora walked through the capital's crystal streets, Watching the citizens gather in groups, still talking about what had happened, children pointed at the sky, imagining the battle they hadn't seen but could feel. Adults spoke softly about the humans, about how calm and brave they had been. Everywhere she went, Leora heard the same question whispered with awe. How did the humans stay so strong? And in her heart she knew the answer. The Council's decision. A few days later, the Great Council called for a meeting in the central dome. The building shone with silver light, surrounded by calm gardens and quiet fountains. Inside, every seat was filled. The highest leaders of Virelia, the scientists, the peacekeepers, and now, a new kind of guest, the human delegation. Commander Elias stood beside Leora near the center of the hall. He wore his dark uniform, clean but marked by faint scratches from the battle. He did not look proud, only thoughtful. The High Diplomat rose first. Her long robe shimmered like sunlight over water. Virelia owes its safety to our human allies. Without them, we would not be standing here in peace. But we must ask a question that will shape our future. What now? A quiet murmur filled the room. Elias waited until the voices faded. Then he spoke gently. The danger you faced is not gone. Raiders test new worlds, and others will follow when they sense weakness. My people do not wish to rule or interfere, but we can help you prepare, so that next time you can stand on your own. The High Diplomat nodded. And how would you prepare us, Commander? Elias paused. By teaching, not the art of war, but the art of defense. We will share what humanity has learned. How to protect, how to plan, how to stay calm under threat. You will learn discipline, teamwork, and the value of readiness, not to fight, but to ensure peace lasts. Leora looked around the room. Many Virelians seemed unsure. They had never spoken of battle, never trained for danger, but there was also curiosity in their eyes, a spark that had not been there before. The council took a moment to deliberate. When they returned, the High Diplomat smiled softly. We accept your offer. Virelia will learn from humanity's wisdom. A light applause filled the hall, not loud, but heartfelt. A new beginning are, the next weeks, the human crew began to train the Virelians. They taught them how to build better shields, how to coordinate during emergencies, and how to keep calm when facing the unknown. Elias did not bring weapons. Instead, he brought knowledge, charts, plans, and stories of how humans had survived through unity and cleverness. Leora joined every session. She watched as the once gentle Virelians slowly found strength within themselves. At first, they were nervous and unsure, but under Elias's guidance, they learned quickly. He taught them how to think ahead. Don't wait for danger to come, he said. Prepare before it arrives. He taught them teamwork. A single person can be brave, but a group that trusts each other can protect entire worlds. And most of all, he taught them balance. Strength means nothing without kindness. The goal is never to win. It's to make sure peace continues. Leora saw how his lessons changed people. Even the council guards, who once only stood for ceremony, now trained with focus and pride. The city felt alive in a new way, not afraid, but awake. The human farewell. 3 months later, the human ship prepared to leave. The danger had passed, and Virelia's new defense systems were nearly complete. The city gathered to say goodbye. Elias stood on a raised platform overlooking the crowd. Leora stood beside him, the wind moving through her hair. The people cheered softly, holding flowers and lights to thank their protectors. The High Diplomat spoke first. Commander Elias, humanity came to us as visitors and leaves as friends. You have reminded us that peace is precious and that wisdom sometimes wears armor. Elias bowed. And you have reminded us why that armor must stay clean. Thank you for showing us what peace looks like when it is pure. The crowd fell silent for a moment, touched by his words. Then Leora stepped forward. She looked up at Elias, her voice soft but steady. Before you came, I thought humans were creatures of conflict. I believed the stories that said you had forgotten peace. But now I know those stories were wrong. Elias smiled faintly. And what do you believe now? I believe humans remember everything, she said. You remember war not because you want it, but because you never want it again. You turned your pain into wisdom, your discipline into kindness. That is what makes your strength different. For a moment, silence filled the air again, heavy with feeling. The crowd seemed to sense that this was more than a farewell. It was the beginning of understanding between two civilizations. Elias extended his hand. Then we leave Virelia not just safer but wiser. Keep that memory alive, Leora took his hand. We will, and we will not forget you. The departure, the humans boarded Sol's memory and prepared to lift off. The ship's engines glowed softly, their light reflecting off the towers of the capital. Crowds filled the streets to watch the departure. Leora stood on the same balcony where she had first seen Elias's ship weeks ago. This time she was not afraid. She watched the vessel rise higher, leaving a faint trail of golden light across the sky. As it disappeared among the stars, she felt both sadness and pride. The humans had come from far away, brought courage when it was needed most, and left behind something far more valuable than technology. They had given her people hope and purpose. The legacy months passed. The seasons changed. Virelia was quiet again, but it was not the same quiet as before. It was stronger, steadier. Leora had taken on a new role as a peace guardian, a coordinator between the Council and the new defense network. She often remembered Elias's lessons. When she looked at the skies at night, she would whisper his words to herself. Peace needs guardians, not conquerors. One evening, she visited the Eastern Relay where they had once stood during the battle. The systems now shone brighter than ever, rebuilt stronger with both human and Virelian design. She walked across the metal walkway, listening to the hum of energy beneath her feet. Everything felt alive, connected. A young trainee approached her. Mistress Leora, he asked shyly, is it true that humans once fought many wars? Leora nodded. Yes, they did. Long ago. Then why do they still train for it? She smiled gently. Because remembering the pain of the past keeps them gentle. They do not train to fight. They train so they never have to. The trainee thought about that for a moment and nodded with understanding. Leora looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Sol's memory was traveling between systems, helping others, perhaps facing new challenges. She wondered if Elias was watching the same stars from another world. She whispered softly, you were right. Strength without kindness means nothing. Peace without strength is fragile, but together, they can protect the universe. The wind moved across the field, carrying her words upward. Epilogue. The Song of Memory. Years later, a monument stood at the center of Virelia's capital. It was simple. A tall silver statue shaped like two hands holding a single light. The inscription at its base read, "To those who remember war and choose peace." Every year on the day of the Great Defense, the people gathered there. They lit small lamps and placed them around the monument, whispering words of thanks to the stars. Children learned about the humans who came when danger arrived, and how they taught Virelia the meaning of true peace. Leora, now older, would stand near the front, watching the lights reflect on the crystal streets, and in those moments she always felt Elias's presence beside her, not in body but in spirit. For she knew deep in her heart that humans had not forgotten war. They had learned how to protect peace through understanding, courage, and unity. And as long as that lesson was remembered, the light in those two hands, the symbol of both strength and mercy, would never fade. Commander Lyra Vey stood on the observation deck of the Zarathus Interstellar Academy, her arms crossed, eyes scanning the sprawling city below. The academy was a marvel of alien engineering, a city-sized fortress that floated above the planet's surface. Towering spires glinted in the twin suns, and sleek ships hovered silently in the air, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. The alien instructors, a diverse group of species from across the galaxy, moved with disciplined grace, issuing orders with crisp authority. But Lyra's attention was not on the drills. Her mind was occupied with a story she had overheard that morning. The story was about humans, a species she considered primitive. One of the younger cadets had whispered about a human myth, a fighter so skilled that he could face hundreds of enemies alone and emerge unscathed. Lyra had scoffed at the tale. She had spent decades training, mastering every form of combat the galaxy offered, yet she had never heard of this human. Humans? She muttered under her breath. Legends for children. Her assistant, a small, six-limbed alien named Zorath, peeked at her nervously. Commander, you do not believe the story, do you? Lyra arched an eyebrow. Believe it? Zorath, I have faced entire fleets in battle. I have defeated warriors whose names are carved in the histories of 10 planets. And you expect me to believe one can stand against even a fraction of what I have faced? Zorath hesitated. The story is persistent. Many worlds whisper of him. They call him Kale. Lyra laughed softly, shaking her head. Kale. A single human named Kale, please. Names alone do not win wars. Even as she spoke, a flicker of unease ran through her. She had been trained to trust intelligence reports, but there was something about the whispers. Something persistent. Perhaps it was because the stories had survived for decades, traveling from world to world. Not even the most outlandish tales usually lasted that long. The Academy's alarm system beeped, interrupting her thoughts. A holographic display appeared in front of her, showing incoming signals from a nearby sector. Human ships, small, almost fragile-looking vessels, were moving in formation toward Zarathus. Lyra's lips curled into a confident smile. Finally, she said, a chance to see if these humans are as dangerous as they claim. Zorath's antennae twitched nervously. Commander, they are leading a rebellion. Their numbers are few, but their movements are unusual. Lyra's eyes gleamed. Few numbers? Unusual movements? That sounds perfect. This will be nothing more than a brief exercise. Within hours, the alien forces mobilized. Ships in sleek, angular formations moved across the planet's surface, and squads of elite fighters prepared for deployment. Lyra led the operation personally, her experience giving her confidence. She felt no fear, only anticipation. When they arrived near the human fleet, she studied them carefully. The humans were small in number, no more than a few dozen ships, and their design was simple compared to the polished alien technology. Lyra felt a momentary twinge of amusement. They looked fragile, almost laughable. Look at them, she said to Zorath. Do you really think these frail creatures can challenge us? Zorath shook his multiple heads. Commander, we should still exercise caution. Humans are unpredictable. Lyra waved him off. Unpredictable, yes, but not a threat. Watch and learn, Zorath. This is how legends crumble. The first attack began. Lyra's squadron surged forward, weapons blazing, expecting resistance. The humans scattered with surprising coordination. Small ships darted between asteroid belts, dodging with speed and precision. They moved as if they anticipated every strike before it happened. Lyra frowned. Interesting, she muttered. They are quick, but not enough. Her team fired, but the humans avoided every shot, weaving in ways that seemed impossible. One of the alien pilots, a four-armed warrior named Kalor, shouted in frustration. Commander, they are avoiding everything. Lyra's grin remained. Adaptation is their only advantage. Even so, numbers win battles. The humans began to counterattack. Though their weapons were weaker, their tactics were clever. They set traps, luring alien fighters into ambushes. Ships that should have been invincible were damaged, some destroyed. Lyra's forces were losing ground. Her amusement faded, replaced by a flicker of concern. She had underestimated them. The humans were not just surviving. They were winning small victories with cunning and coordination. Commander, Zorath said quietly. Perhaps. The legend is real. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Do not be ridiculous. It is impossible. Even if there is one fighter, one human among them, a single being cannot change the outcome of this battle. But the evidence was mounting. Reports of humans appearing in multiple locations at once, evading attacks and striking with precision, made her stomach tighten. She could feel the truth she refused to acknowledge. These humans were exceptional. As night fell over the planet, Lyra stood on a cliff overlooking the battlefield. Fires from destroyed ships painted the sky red and orange. The humans were retreating, but not in defeat. Every move they made was deliberate, leaving traces of strategy that were difficult to predict. Lyra's mind raced. She had been trained to believe in superior technology, in strength and discipline, yet here was a species that seemed to defy those rules. They were small, fragile, yet capable of feats that would embarrass seasoned alien warriors. A shadow passed over her, fast, precise, almost silent. She turned sharply. For a split second, she thought she saw a figure, human in shape, moving across the battlefield as if walking on air. She shook her head. Impossible, she whispered. This is just luck. Nothing more. But deep inside, she felt a seed of doubt. This human, this Kale, was no ordinary fighter. His movements, his strategy, his presence, it all suggested something more. Something legendary. Lyra returned to her ship, silent, thoughtful. She replayed the day's events in her mind, searching for errors, searching for reasons why a single human could perform so many impossible maneuvers. She found none. The human had not only survived, he had demonstrated intelligence and skill that rivaled the best alien commanders she had ever faced. She stared out the viewport, the twin suns casting long shadows over the land below. A myth, she muttered, is just a story, until it draws its blade. The words felt heavier than she expected. For the first time in her life, Lyra was unsure. She had never faced a legend before, and now one stood before her, not in history books, not in whispers, but alive, moving and challenging everything she believed about strength and skill. And so, with the stars shining above, Commander Lyra Vey prepared herself. She laughed at the myth that day, yes, but the laughter had died on her lips, because somewhere out there, a human named Kale was already planning his next move. And when he did, the galaxy would see that legends were not always fiction. The next morning, Commander Lyra Vey awoke with a sense of anticipation she had not felt in years. The previous day's events played over and over in her mind like a relentless echo. A small human fleet, far outnumbered and outgunned, had managed to survive her assault, evade her attacks, and strike with precision. And somewhere among them, the human myth, Kale, moved with an almost supernatural skill. Lyra's pride refused to accept it. She had defeated the finest warriors of 3 different galaxies, yet the thought of a single human being capable of such feats gnawed at her. Her mind sharpened as she prepared for the next encounter. Zorath, she said, standing before the holographic map of the battlefield. I want a full analysis of their movements, every maneuver, every pattern. I will not be surprised again. Zorath's multiple heads tilted as he studied the display. Commander, the humans are unlike any enemy we have faced. They do not fight with raw power alone. Their attacks are unpredictable yet coordinated. They think in ways that even our best tacticians cannot anticipate. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then we will anticipate them. If they rely on unpredictability, we will become more unpredictable. If they rely on strategy, we will outthink them. This human myth, Kyle, will soon see that legends are no match for reality. The alien fleet descended toward the planet's surface once more. The humans had retreated to a canyon system rich with natural cover. From the air, the terrain looked deceptively simple, rocky cliffs, narrow passages, and deep valleys. But Lyra knew that terrain favored small, agile forces. She studied it carefully, searching for points to trap the humans. As the alien forces deployed, Lyra noticed movement below. Small shadows darted between rocks, moving too fast for casual observation. A human scout, perhaps, or more. Lyra's lips curved into a confident smile. Let them come, she whispered. We will crush them before they even see us. The first human counterattack came suddenly. From the canyon, small crafts emerged, firing precise bursts at alien ground squads. Lyra watched with interest as the humans used the terrain to their advantage, disappearing behind rocks immediately after each strike. Alien forces were caught off guard, forced to regroup under fire. Keylor, flank them from the west, Lyra ordered. Do not give them an inch. Keylor, the 4-armed warrior, gritted his teeth. Commander, they are too fast. We cannot predict where they will strike next. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then we will force them into predictability. Use decoys, scatter your forces. They may be fast, but no creature can be everywhere at once. Despite her orders, the humans seemed to anticipate every move. Small squads ambushed alien reinforcements, appearing where none should have been. Explosions rocked the cliffs, throwing dust and debris into the air. Lyra felt a flicker of unease. She had fought countless skilled enemies, yet these humans seemed different. They moved not with brute strength, but with cleverness, adaptability, and daring. And then she saw him. A lone figure leapt from one cliff to another with astonishing speed and precision. He carried no massive weapon, no armor to weigh him down. Yet every movement radiated confidence and deadly skill. Lyra felt a chill as she realized the truth. This was no ordinary human. This was Kale. Impossible, she whispered. No human should move like that. But Kale moved with purpose. He intercepted alien patrols, disarmed soldiers, and seemed to appear wherever he was most needed. His strikes were precise, minimal, and efficient. No wasted effort, no unnecessary motion. Every action served a purpose. Lyra gritted her teeth. Zorath, mark his position. I want him captured or eliminated. Zorath nodded. Commander, he is... Fast, but not invincible. If we coordinate, we can corner him. Lyra's mind raced. She had fought against creatures with superhuman strength, with psychic abilities, with advanced technology far beyond human comprehension, yet none of them had made her question her own confidence. Kale did. The humans, despite their small number, began to force the alien forces to retreat. Lyra could see panic ripple through her soldiers. Rare, but not impossible. Alien warriors were trained to fight, but they were not used to being outmaneuvered by what they considered a primitive species. Lyra clenched her fists. Then we escalate, she said. Deploy the drones. Fire the energy cannons. Flatten the canyon if we must. The sky filled with alien drones, their weapons primed for destruction. But Kale was already anticipating them. Using the canyon walls as cover, he moved from shadow to shadow, striking weak points in the drone formations. Explosions lit the rocky walls, but the humans seemed unharmed, almost untouchable. Lyra's confidence wavered, though she refused to show it. She had underestimated him, and she hated that feeling. Pride, after all, was everything to a commander. Hours passed. The humans did not retreat, nor did they surrender. They adapted to every attack, countered every plan, and used the terrain as if it were a weapon. Lyra realized with growing respect that these humans were not merely surviving, they were thriving. Finally, a human group moved toward the alien command center. Lyra's pulse quickened. If they breached her position, the battle would be lost. She prepared to confront them herself. Kale stepped into view. For a moment he paused, scanning the battlefield. His eyes, sharp and focused, met hers. Lyra felt a strange recognition. Not fear, but awareness. He was studying her as much as she was studying him. Lyra drew her weapon, a sleek energy blade that hummed with power. So, she said quietly, you are the myth. Kale's lips curved into a faint smile. He did not speak. Words were unnecessary. His movements already spoke of skill, precision, and the confidence of someone who had faced impossible odds, and survived. The duel did not start immediately. Instead, Kale moved with his group to dismantle alien defenses. Lyra observed him, learning quickly. His strategy was brilliant. Minimal risk, maximum effect. Each human acted with awareness of the others, coordinated without spoken commands. Lyra's pride began to shift. She had laughed at this myth, but now she saw the truth. Humans were not the weak species she had believed them to be. They were clever, resourceful, and terrifyingly effective. The first clash ended with neither side claiming full victory. The humans retreated into the canyon, leaving Lyra with unanswered questions and a gnawing sense of admiration mixed with frustration. How could a human, with no armor, no advanced weaponry, achieve so much? As night fell, Lyra returned to her observation point. The battle was over for the day, but the human threat lingered in her mind. She replayed every move, every strike, every decision Kale had made. The humans had turned her expectations upside down. Zorath, she said softly, prepare a full reconnaissance team. I want to know everything about him, this Kale. If he is a myth, we will prove it. If he is real, she trailed off, unsure whether she was speaking with fear, curiosity, or something else entirely. Zorath hesitated. Commander, if he is real, perhaps we should approach carefully. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but also resilient. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Resilience is exactly what I intend to test. In the quiet of the night, she watched the stars above, thinking of the human named Kyle. She had laughed at the myth yesterday. Today she realized she might have laughed too soon. And somewhere in the shadows of the canyon, Kale prepared for the next encounter, moving silently, striking efficiently, and proving that legends were never entirely fiction. The first clash had ended, but the real battle, between myth and reality, pride and skill, alien confidence and human ingenuity, was only beginning. Lyra's laugh was gone. It had been replaced by a sharp, focused determination. The myth had drawn its blade, and now she would draw hers. The canyon was quiet. The wind howled through jagged cliffs, carrying the faint scent of smoke from the day's battles. Commander Lyra Vey stood atop a rocky ledge, her energy blade humming softly in her hand. Below her, the human forces had vanished into the shadows, leaving only whispers of their movement. Yet she knew the myth had not gone. Somewhere in the darkness, Kale was watching, waiting. Lyra's pride would not allow her to ignore this challenge. She had laughed at the stories, scoffed at the legends, but now she had seen the truth. Humans were not weak. They were cunning, adaptable, and in Kale's case, extraordinary. Her confidence in alien superiority had been shaken, and she refused to let it go untested. "Zorath," she said, her voice firm, "prepare the communication link. I will request a one-on-one duel. If this human is as skilled as they say, I will know soon enough." Zorath's antennae twitched nervously. "Commander, are you certain? Humans are unpredictable. Even one can change the tide of battle." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "I have faced unpredictable. I have faced impossible. This is no different. I need to know if the human myth is truth or just luck." Minutes later, a soft chime echoed through her communicator. A calm, measured voice replied, "Kyle accepts your challenge, Commander. Meet us in the canyon clearing. No interference, one-on-one." Lyra's lips curled into a faint smile. "Very well," she murmured. "Then let us see who the legend truly belongs to." The journey down into the canyon was tense. Lyra's squadron held positions at the perimeter, giving her a clear path. The canyon walls were steep, covered in jagged rocks that provided perfect cover for an ambush. Yet Lyra felt no fear, only focus. Every step was calculated, every breath deliberate. She would face Kale as a warrior faces a worthy opponent. The clearing opened before her. Dust swirled in the wind, lit by shafts of sunlight piercing the canyon. There, standing alone, was Kale. His stance was relaxed, yet every movement radiated readiness. His eyes, sharp and clear, met hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Lyra raised her blade, the energy humming loudly in the silence. "Show me what a human can do," she said. Kyle's smile was small but confident. He did not speak. Words were unnecessary. His movements were already a language of their own, conveying skill, focus, and lethal precision. The first strike came not from Lyra but from Kale. He moved like lightning, closing the distance with a speed that took her by surprise. Lyra raised her blade just in time, deflecting his strike. The impact sent a shock through her arms, a reminder that this was no ordinary opponent. Lyra countered, swinging her blade in a wide arc. Kale dodged effortlessly, twisting and flipping over a jagged rock, landing silently on the ground behind her. Every motion he made was fluid, precise, as if he anticipated her next move before she even thought of it. "You are fast," Lyra admitted, a hint of respect in her voice. "But speed alone will not win this fight." Kale's eyes sparkled with amusement, yet he did not respond. He struck again, this time aiming not to harm but to test her reactions. Lyra parried and blocked, her muscles straining, her focus absolute. Every strike, every feint, every movement demanded her full attention. Minutes passed, each one stretching into eternity. Lyra realized something remarkable. Kale was not just skilled in physical combat. He was a strategist, reading her intentions, exploiting even the smallest openings. Every attack she attempted was met with countermeasures. Every plan she devised was adapted to instantly. For the first time in her career, Lyra felt her pride challenged, not by numbers, not by technology, but by the mind and skill of a single human. "You are extraordinary," she whispered, almost to herself. Kale responded with a swift strike, forcing her to step back. She realized that words would not change the outcome of this duel. Respect could only be earned, and Kale had already earned hers. The battle moved across the clearing, dust rising in clouds with every movement. Lyra swung, parried, lunged, and twisted, but Kale anticipated, avoided, and countered with minimal effort. Each exchange was a lesson in precision. Lyra found herself pushing harder, testing her limits, discovering flaws in her own technique that she had never noticed before. "You teach me more than I thought possible," she admitted aloud, her breathing heavy. "Perhaps humans are more than I believed." Kale's smile widened slightly, approving but unspoken. His actions conveyed more than words ever could. He respected strength, skill, and honor. He fought not recklessly, but with intent and clarity. Hours seemed to pass as the duel continued. The clearing was littered with scuffed rocks and shallow marks from deflected strikes. Lyra's uniform bore scratches, dust clung to her hair, and her arms ached from the continuous exertion. Yet she had learned something crucial. Kale's skill was not just in his speed or reflexes. It was in his mind, in his ability to adapt, and in his understanding of combat as a fluid art. Finally, Kale moved in for a decisive strike. Lyra blocked, twisted, and pivoted, but he disarmed her with a swift motion, sending her energy blade skittering across the rocks. She stumbled but did not fall, and Kyle paused, blade pointed ready to strike. Lyra looked up at him, her chest heaving, eyes meeting his. "I yield," she said quietly, and in that moment something shifted. The duel was over, not because she was weak, but because she recognized a skill beyond her own, a mastery that demanded acknowledgement. Kyle lowered his blade, his respect evident. He did not gloat, he did not mock. He had fought with precision and restraint, proving that the human myth was real yet honorable. Lyra retrieved her blade silently, nodding. "You are truly remarkable," she said. "I see now that the stories were not exaggerations." Kale's expression softened, a mixture of respect and calm. He had won the duel not by destroying but by demonstrating mastery. Lyra understood now what it meant to face a legend. For a moment they stood silently in the canyon, warriors acknowledging each other. Lyra felt her pride transform into something new, admiration, respect, and a cautious curiosity. She realized that this human was not just skilled in combat. He represented something more profound, a spirit of ingenuity, courage, and resilience that aliens had long underestimated. "We will meet again," Lyra said finally, her voice firm. "And next time I will be prepared." Kyle nodded. "And I will be ready," he replied. The duel ended, but the impact of the encounter lingered. Lyra returned to her command post, her mind racing with new thoughts. She could no longer dismiss humans as weak or insignificant. They were clever, resilient, and capable of feats she had once believed impossible. As night fell, Lyra gazed at the stars above the canyon, the faint hum of distant ships filling the air. The human myth had drawn his blade, and now she knew the truth. Legends were not always fiction. Some were real, and some, like Kale, were alive, moving, and capable of challenging the very foundations of belief. Lyra's laughter at the myth was gone. It had been replaced with determination. She would not underestimate humans again, not now, not ever. The next battle would come, and when it did, she would face it with all the skill, strategy, and courage she possessed. But deep inside, she could not shake one thought. Kale was not merely a fighter. He was a symbol of something greater, a reminder that even in a galaxy filled with powerful alien races, one human could stand against them all, and survive. The duel of legends had ended. The war, however, was only beginning.